Brian, what is Apple doing these days?
Apple, that's just had an amazing quarter. But you know what, Tim Cook doesn't really. If you ask Tim Cook, who's a CEO and filled the shoes of Steve Jobs after he left, um, Tim Cook says that he wants Apple to be known, their greatest contribution to be in health and wellness. And it's really been saying that for several years now. And when they introduced the Apple Watch Series 6 in the fall, they said the future of health is on your wrist. And there is just really starting to pay off. For a while now, they've had this research app which will allow universities and medical schools and whatnot to engage patients and volunteers to participate in research studies. And think about how research studies used to be done. You know, people would sign up, you might get an email, and then you'd have to fill out paperwork, and they say, track your blood pressure 3 times a day. And people would forget it and they would write it down, or they might even cheat and write something else down. But you really didn't get, and if they had to track their diet or their stress levels, it would just be a pen and paper in somebody's opinion. But now with the iPhone and your watch, this hearing study that they're doing with the University of Michigan is running. They're tracking thousands of users along with their noise exposure and providing real-time detail to researchers at a much lower cost. And so the studies can be larger, they can be more informative and have more data. And in fact, the University of Michigan found that as we started to work from home, the noise exposure that people were getting was like a third of what it was, when you're involved in commutes and workplace stuff like that. So, that's a really exciting area. And as more people want to get involved with these research studies, it may continue to push sales of the devices. But they just had a massive quarter. They were coming off their fiscal year 2020, which ended in September, at a 6% full year year-over-year revenue growth, and the fourth quarter, which ended in the end of December, 21% growth for this just massive $1 trillion plus market cap company. It's just amazing. And across the board, iPhones up 17%, Macs up 21%, iPads 41%, wearables 30%, and their services business, this is something that I'm going to continue to watch, was 16 billion in the quarter. So 64 billion dollar business, and the services alone growing at 24% a year. That's just amazing. And earnings per share, it's just a cash machine, up 34%. So, and this was with not all the Apple stores were even open. So, March 1st, they opened all their Apple stores. So, look for this to even pick up as we go into this year. But, they're not giving specific guidance either. They're providing directional insights and all that kind of stuff. And they said total company revenue growth will accelerate on a year-over-year basis and an aggregate, following typical seasonality on sequential basis. So, this is something that I actually really like, is that it seems like companies, for sure during COVID said, we're not giving guidance because we don't know what the heck's going on, with plus there. And then now they're coming out of it and saying, you know what, we don't really need to give guidance anymore. And I actually like that a lot, because, it's frustrating to analysts and whatnot, but for long-term investors, the quarter-to-quarter gyrations aren't important as really their business strategies and how they're executing against this. What to watch? There's so many exciting things to watch about Apple and its cash flow engine, and just continuing to expand on its hardware software ecosystem. I've been watching a little bit of the news on this car rumor thing, but it's sort of on again, off again, and if it even comes to fruition, it's at least in 2024. But so Tesla doesn't have to fear Apple just yet. But, that's just some of the optionality that they have was such a tremendous ecosystem and cash in the pocket.
Yeah, and I think investors are really discounting just how much potential Apple has in areas like healthcare and cars. Three big reasons. One, they have tons of capital to invest. If they want to spend $100 billion to design the perfect car, they could do it if they really wanted to. They have the stickiest customer base of any company I've ever heard of. People will buy a product just because it has Apple on it, especially if they have other products, because they're so compatible with each other and not so much with other devices. And they also have insane pricing power. We think of cars as just not a high margin business. I mentioned General Motors trades at less than one-time sales because it's not a high margin business. It's very capital intensive. Apple could have a higher markup on their eventual car than any other automobile manufacturer in the world. And people will pay it because it's an Apple product and it will pair well with all their other things. So it's the same with health devices for that matter. So I think Apple has a ton of potential in all of those areas. And I think, they're I don't even know how many trillion. I think it's about 2 trillion right now.
Yeah.
But I think that could be half of what their potential is over the next few years.
Yeah, they're one of the best run companies in the world, hands down, period.